Hey guys, it's time to read another short story, and I actually had a request again, so we are going to do The Doctor's Visit. A cold wind blew dead leaves past his office window as Dr. Watkins looked out at the darkening October sky. We're in for a pretty wild storm, he thought. The doctor heard the bell ringing in the church tower across the street. It was 10 o'clock. It's late, he thought. I'm glad I'll be home soon. He watched the moon rise through the bare branches of the old oak tree. Something about the cold whiteness of the moon against the black sky made him shiver. Dr. Watkins had just turned back to the large stack of papers and reports on his desk when he heard a knock at the door of his office. Who on earth would be out on a night like this? He wondered. Opening the door, the doctor was surprised to find an old woman standing there. She was so pale and thin that the doctor thought she must be very sick. Come in, he said in a kindly tone. You shouldn't be out on a night like this. And you aren't even wearing a coat, he said. Doctor, there's a sick boy who needs your help right now, the pale woman said. She thrust a folded sheet of paper into the doctor's hand. Please go to this address at once. There's no time to lose. The doctor looked at the old piece of paper with its old-fashioned handwriting and saw that the address was a few miles out of town. He heard fat raindrops starting to splatter against the window pane. A bolt of lightning lighted up the dark sky, followed by a clap of thunder that seemed to echo down the streets of the village. The doctor thought of the warm fire that would be blazing at home and the cup of tea his wife would fix for him. But then he looked at the pale, thin old woman standing in his office. He saw the pleading in her strangely bright eyes. He read again the address on the musty old piece of paper she had given him. He noticed the faded, flowery decorations on the edge of the paper and wondered where the woman could have gotten such an old kind of writing paper. He set the piece of paper on his desk. With a sigh, Dr. Watkins said, I usually don't make house calls this late. Don't you think you could take the child to the clinic tomorrow morning? The woman's eyes seemed to become even brighter with a strange fire in them. I couldn't take the boy anywhere, the woman answered. And what kind of doctor are you that will not go to a dying child? She added angrily. Dying? Why didn't you say so? What's wrong with the boy? The doctor asked as he opened the closet to get his coat and medical bag. And how do you know he's dying? He asked as he pulled on his overcoat. As Dr. Watkins turned to hear her answer, he noticed again how very thin the pale woman was. The white skin on her face seemed stretched so tightly that her cheekbones jutted out. Her hair was white and wispy. Her hands looked like they were made of fine china. Only her bright eyes seemed alive. They blazed with a strange fire. Even the clothes she wore were rumpled and somehow different. Her dress looked formal, almost like an old-fashioned wedding dress. You ask me how I know the boy is dying, doctor, she said almost in a whisper. Believe me, I know what a dying person looks like. You must hurry. There is no time to lose. I'll lock up and we'll go right away. Wait for me here. Oh, doctor, the woman said quietly. Thank you for going to the boy. Thank you. I am a doctor, he answered, and doctors go to sick people. The woman had a strange little half-smile on her pale face. Then she said, yes, doctors go to sick people. Something in the woman's tone and strange half-smile made him uneasy. Please wait here. I'll be right back after I lock up. The doctor hurried down the hall. You can ride over with, he started to say as he walked back into the waiting room. But the room was empty. The old woman was gone. I'm ready to leave now, he called out, but only the silence answered. He searched all the rooms of his office, but the pale old woman was not there. Had he dreamed the whole visit? Maybe he had been working too hard lately. Here he was, still at the office at 10 o'clock at night, and the woman did seem a little strange. But then Dr. Watkins saw the handwritten note with the address on his desk. He picked it up and read the address again, and below the house number were written the words, Doctors go to sick people. So he hadn't dreamed it. The old woman had been there. Well, said the doctor out loud, I guess I'd better go on out there. He turned out the lights in his office. In the darkness, he noticed once again the strange, musty smell of the woman's clothes. A bolt of lightning lighted up the sky as he closed the door to his office. Dr. Watkins pulled his coat tightly around him and walked to his car. He drove through the worsening storm. The thunder and lightning seemed to explode every few seconds, and the rain smacked against his windshield. It took him 15 minutes to reach the house, an old farmhouse off by itself on the edge of a woods. He looked at the old woman's note to check the address. When he saw it was the right house, he folded the note up and put it back in his pocket. When he knocked on the big front door, the doctor was greeted by a man in his 30s. May I help you? The man asked with a puzzled look on his face. I'm Dr. Watkins. I'm here for the sick child, he answered. The man looked at the doctor's medical bag and then asked, What sick child? Our son Timothy is upstairs asleep. He's not sick. I don't understand. A young woman appeared at the door behind the man. Who is it, Jack? She asked. It's a doctor who says he's here about a sick child. Look, I was told by an old woman to come to this address because a boy was dying, Dr. Watkins explained. May I come in? I'm getting soaked standing here. Yes, of course, the young woman said, opening the door wide. Come in and tell us what's going on. Sitting in the living room, the doctor told them about the strange, pale visitor. The old woman insisted that I come immediately. She kept saying that there was no time to lose. Now I get here, and I find that nobody is. Here the doctor suddenly stopped talking. His eyes fell on a framed photograph on a desk in the corner of the living room. "That woman there in the photograph," he said, pointing toward the desk. "That's her. That's the woman who was in my office." The couple looked at each other for a moment. Then the woman said, "You must be mistaken, doctor. That's my mother. She's been dead for over 3 years." "But she gave me this address," he answered, handing her the folded-up piece of paper. The young woman opened the old piece of paper, looking at her husband. When she saw what was written on it, she gasped. "It can't be true! It can't be true!" she screamed. "What is it?" both men cried. "It's a page from my mother's prayer book. I had it in her coffin right before she was buried," the woman said in a hoarse whisper. Then she looked up toward their son's bedroom with wild eyes. "She must know," she screamed. "Mother knows." The woman flew up the stairs with the note in her hand. The men were right behind her. They found Timothy unconscious on his bed. Dr. Watkins felt the boy's forehead and announced, "He's burning up with fever. It might be meningitis. Call an ambulance. If we get him to the hospital right away, we can save him." The young woman had collapsed on her son's bed. Dr. Watkins took the note from her hand and showed it to Jack. "But what does it mean? Why did she write 'doctors go to sick people'?" Dr. Watkins asked. Jack stared at the old-fashioned handwriting on the old musty prayer book page. He swallowed hard and then said, "Doctor, my wife's mother died right here in this room of a heart attack. We called a doctor and we waited almost 5 hours. By the time he got here, she was dead." Have a spooky day. Who's calling the ambulance if Jack and the doctor are discussing the death of the old woman and the wife has just collapsed on the bed? I'm guessing the kid's not calling.